Boom. If you don't know, I'm just kidding. That's my podcast. What's going on, everybody?
Hey.
We return here with your favorite knockoff of the ESPN's very own flagship debating show. Just kidding. What's up, guys? My name is Davidson Baker. I'm the host of this show. Normally, coming into this week, I was saying I will lead in and say I'm a staff writer at MMATakeover.com, but that's no longer true. Me and a couple of others, one in this call included, are now members of the fan-sided MMA team. We're very excited, ready to get the ball rolling. I know, Brandon, did you publish your first article done today?
Yeah, today. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to be on that team with you and excited that we're getting that opportunity. And we are going to keep the ball rolling, obviously, with this podcast going forward because it's just so much fun. And the competitive nature of it brings the best out in us. And we have another panel of 4 this week that will do just that. For the first time since this show has started, we have 2 repeat guys coming on. Mr. Brandon Sibcy, formerly with me, MMA Takeover, and now fan-sided. What is up, bro?
Hey, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, bro. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Keith would be roasting you for wearing a beanie inside, though, right now.
You know, I was hoping he'd be on the call, actually. That was the whole reason behind it.
To be honest with you, if I would have saw a beanie, too, I would have joined you on Team Beanie, man. You got to stick it to him. The beanie's the way to go. Also coming on as a repeat from episode 1, my man with the Body Lock and Cage Side Press, also a friend of my podcast, the Bottom Line Podcast, Max Freedman. Max, what is that?
You know, as the first guy to ever get eliminated on this show was a little sour. A lot of controversy out there on Twitter. The results might have been predetermined going against the 2 owners of the podcast network and the great James Lynch. Nonetheless, I'm honored that you asked me to be back here. Really excited to get this thing going.
It was the only way to avoid the lawsuit. 2 newcomers joining us this week as well. Starting out with with Sherdog Jason Burgos, not Justin Burgos. I did call him that.
That's true.
You know. Writing for a platform like Sherdog, man. That's awesome. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk some MMA with you guys. Wait a minute, but do we have any previous winners? We don't have any ringers and previous winners, right? I want to have a chance tonight.
No. The list of winners. The list of winners is we have James Lynch.
Of course, James Lynch won. Of course.
James Lynch brought it, man. We have James Lynch. Believe it or not, title challenge. Real quick, want to introduce those as well. Colin Crandall. Can you let everybody know the medium where you talk about MMA? Do what you love.
Absolutely. We are on Fight TV. You can download the app free of charge. That's FITE TV. And we also stream live on Facebook. Our page is MMA Power Hour. We go live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time for 2 hours. We've done about 100 shows. So on Facebook, you can find most of our past content, probably 250 hours of interviews starting March of 2017. So, love to have anyone join us and watch our show. And we always aim to have a lot of fun and provide great information and conversation.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It looks like we got a competitive bunch right here tonight. So, my least favorite part of this podcast, but I got to do it for those that are listening that may not be aware. If you tweet at me or talk to me and tell me, hey, dude, this is just like Around the Horn, we know, man. It's called Around the Cage. 2 of the 3 words are the same. So it'll be just that, man. We start with 4 guys that are knowledgeable, 4 guys that will come and bring out the best in their opinions about whatever I have to ask. They will get points for those opinions that they have. They will not get points for whether I agree with them. They will get points for how well they back it up. They could be talking about something I totally disagree with completely, but if they back it up well, they're going to get points. Once we ask 4 questions, we will unfortunately say goodbye to somebody. And new for the first time this week, we have a goodbye song. Any watch SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yes.
Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
I love that.
That's totally a joke, and that's never going to happen, but that's is brought when you get eliminated on this illustrious show. But we'll say goodbye to somebody after the fourth question, as well as after the fifth question, until we get down to the final two in the final round, to which I will ask them the final question that they will not be aware of going into it. It is a mystery. Is everybody ready to go?
Yeah.
Yep.
And we get started. And obviously the UFC's middleweight division, the division that was in focus this weekend, until it was around 3 p.m. Eastern time on a Saturday. Life was good. Life was great because we were going to get a middleweight doubleheader of maybe not the highest pedigree, because if you consider rankings next to people's names as what runs that bill, but man, were they compelling fights. And then all of a sudden, 3 o'clock, you feel that way. At 3:05, you're not feeling that way because Brett Okamoto reported out of just what came out of nowhere, no more Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. So hours before the card begins, we get Israel Adesanya and Anderson Silva in this main event. But the original middleweight title fight never happened, and we have a number one contender, but another number one contender that doesn't know. Guys, Brandon, I will start with you, my man. What is the next step if you were the UFC to take at 185 pounds?
All right. So I'm assuming Whittaker's not going to be out for too long. They have to book Whittaker Gastelum again. Gastelum came out. He did that great heel thing during the pay-per-view that had people going crazy. They were confused. We all knew it was a joke, but a lot of people were out there like, hey, is he really saying he's the champion now? Then, media and fans were split on this fight going into it. That makes it compelling in its own right. And then, of course, they got its biggest co-signing it could possibly get when Conor McGregor tweeted out, calling out Kelvin for carrying the belt around. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. If Conor McGregor's talking about it, the whole world's talking about it. So, that's the fight. Matt Damon said it should only be 4 to 6 weeks before he can come back, when Dana asks for his medical advice. So, just wait and make that fight. That's the one to make. It's the one we all want to see.
Well, I do agree with that. Matt Damon and Conor McGregor. But Conor McGregor did call him a worm. I laughed at that. Colin, your opinion.
So several interesting things. One, obviously, the belt Kelvin was holding when he was being the heel was his good friend Henry Cejudo's belt. So that is something that's also funny. The other thing also is people are wondering what Kelvin had on his face and on his neck. Maybe it turns out it was a really good thing that fight didn't happen, not just because of Robert Whittaker. Another interesting point, Robert Whittaker has had 2 fights scheduled for Australia, his home country, and had to back out of both due to injury. So you almost wonder, is he snake bitten back over there in Australia? We hope not. I think it should be going to Kelvin. I personally think that Yoel Romero did beat Robert Whittaker in both fights, but it's only right to let Kelvin fight him again. I do think, though, if they're thinking 4 to 6 weeks and I'm over the hill and out of shape, in 4 to 6 weeks after hernia surgery, I could beat Robert Whittaker. I don't think it's going to happen 4 to 6 weeks. I think we're probably talking 12 to 16 weeks. But yeah, I think it would be Kelvin Gastelum, and it should be.
Very important point there. He fell out of 221 with Rockhold as well. Something's going on over there. My friend Max, that's you.
Let's be real here. There's only 2 options that you can choose from. You got Kelvin Gastelum and you got Israel Adesanya. Adesanya is the talk of the town, but he needed to make a statement in that fight against Anderson Silva, and he did not get a finish. Now, he's 5-0 in the UFC, but only 2 of those fights he won via finish. The UFC sunk all that money in The Ultimate Fighter this past summer. You really think they're going to stand and piss off another one of their top talents by snatching a title fight away from them? I mean, they already got Colby Covington, Tony Ferguson, and Dustin Poirier livid. You think they're going to piss off Gastelum too? And not to mention, the guy is young, talented, and he can put the lights out. Look at those finishes over Bisping, Belfort, and Kennedy. This is going to be an absolute war on the feet when he fights Whittaker. It is absolutely the fight to make.
I couldn't hear you, but I'm assuming you're talking to me. I mean, it's fascinating to see what's going to happen. Is it going to be UFC Classic, where they do things based on merit and what we should have and what we want, or are they going to be UFC WME IMG UFC, which means they're going to be all about the money? And All About the Money says Israel Adesanya. I mean, especially if what seems like, despite Australia being iffy in terms of the MMA market, they're clearly building something over there. They sold out 15,000 seat arena this time around. I mean, it should be Kelvin Gastelum, but the fact that Dana White is very non-committal about that makes you wonder, especially when you look at the welterweight division and some of the craziness in the lightweight division. It should be Kelvin Gastelum, but you know what? For fun's sake, to be different, let's make it Israel Adesanya. I'm going to say it should be Israel Adesanya. Let's get the most fun fight. Let's go back to Australia, fill in like a 30, 40,000 seat arena, and let's make a whole bunch of money, because that's what the UFC is all about nowadays.
A lot of truth to pretty much everything you guys said, and I think what sticks out to me, definitely Australia, New Zealand, turned into a little bit of hotbed. City kickboxing, very quietly. 3-0 on that card. Kai Kara France, Shane Young getting their hands raised as well. But we move on to a little bit more of a controversial note. So when Sam Alvey was TKO'd by Antonio Rogerio Nogueira in Sao Paulo back in September, you know, when you take shots on the temple and your legs fall out like a lawn chair, you can obviously win. And because that's kind of how Alvey, you know, felt. He was still there looking for the single leg. However, Goddard stopped the fight. Goddard is ref again this weekend. And calamity strikes again for smiling Sam Alvey. He became scowling Sam Alvey. I have never seen him look that mad. Jason, we went with you last round. We'll go ahead and start with you this round. The crude Alvey stoppage, man. I mean, do we have a problem with refereeing in MMA, or like is that a problem now with so many of these controversial stoppages coming into the limelight? What do you think could be contributing to these controversies?
You know, the first thing I'll say is Sam Alvey's beef with those two fights. I didn't hate either stoppage. I think I've seen worse. I think we've all seen worse on Twitter on the lower level. Yeah, there's an issue, but it's been a long time coming. But I don't want to blame referees. It's an extremely tough job, especially with this high-level athletes and the UFC level and the speed. To me, it's more systemic. It goes back to the athletic commissions. There has to be a more universal, comprehensive setup on how these referees learn, up to date for the sport today, up to date with the skill of the athlete. This non-unification of different ideas and strategies between athletic commissions a problem. There needs to be something, maybe even on a federal level, to better train and prepare these guys, because some are on the level and some are far from it. You know, so to me, systemic. I won't blame the referees. I'm definitely not going to blame the fighters. There needs to be a greater issue with athletic commissions. Need to have a deeper, more influential opinion on this.
We'll go ahead and throw it to Colin.
This one is something that I think about a lot and is really tough. Mark Goddard is probably the most experienced MMA referee, not based or not from the United States. So he knows what he's doing. Sam Alvey, I like a lot. I had him on my show a week ago. He felt a lot of confidence in this fight. I thought it was stopped too soon, but I do think that the referee tells these people you've got to intelligently defend yourself. Even though the opponent was hitting his arms and not hitting him really cleanly, if you're turtled up and you have your hands around the side of your head, the fight's going to be stopped. So I think that it's unfortunate, but I think, you know, there's just a situation where the referees need to lean toward stopping the fight too early for the safety and health of the fighters. Athletic commissions are probably telling them that. Promoters are probably asking them to lean that way so the sport doesn't end up banned again like 20 years ago. And I think that the fighters just have to be told that don't get mad if you're turtled up and you're being hit, even if you're blocking a lot of the punches. You're turtled up, you're on your stomach, fight gets stopped, end of story.
Brandon.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with both other guys, honestly. Sam Alvey needs to just stop getting punched in the face so much. If no, that's a joke, obviously, but it's kind of true. I mean, when you get rocked, you go down. The little non-stoppage was fine. The crude stoppage, upon seeing the replay, I thought, okay, a couple of those were hitting the arm. When you watch it live speed, you can't tell that well. You just see Crute landing some bombs on him. So I understand why Sam's upset. Sure, he's a tough dude, but the refs don't train to know which fighters are tougher. They're trained to stop every fight the same way. Mm-hmm. You know, guys not intelligently defending themselves, boom. So it's not the refs' fault. They're doing the best they can. Also, going back to what somebody else brought up, I think they might be telling him to stop fights a little more carefully now, especially moving into the ESPN era. We don't want people comatose on ESPN. As much as the fans want that, it's not a good look for the sport. You know what I mean? So I think the refs are doing an okay job overall. The fighters just, like he said, they're going to have to just defend themselves better and know it's going to get stopped if they're not.
The ESPN and the referee points. Those are great points, man. Max Freedman.
You're told backstage. You're told every day in training camp. You hear it over and over again. Protect yourself at all times. It's 100% on the fighter to get yourself out of a position that would show that you're intelligently defending yourself and avoiding any kind of controversial stoppage that may come from the referee. Sam Alvey's fought 46 times. He should know not to have his hands sprawled on the mat with his head laying down, try and actually actively try to get out. I mean, Mark Goddard, like Colin said, is one of the most professional in the business. The guy put Conor McGregor in his place, for God's sakes. Had a great quote earlier this week. Mark Goddard said, let's say I let this play out in the last 2 shots that come through, put Alvey face down unconscious. What do you think they'll be saying about me then? I think what they'll be saying is the criticism that Mario Yamasaki got when he didn't stop the Priscilla Cachoeira-Valentina Shevchenko fight early enough. That's far worse. Advocating for fighter safety is far better to add on the air of side of caution rather than letting these fighters unconsciously take unnecessary damage.
A lot of truth to a lot of what you guys are saying. If I could throw in one thing in there, why didn't anybody tell the commission that Alvey had a problem with Goddard already? I mean, Cruz and Anik said something about it. I mean, if he doesn't want him to ref, tell the commission. But that's just my 2 cents. And Sam Alvey did get caught with a huge shot and kind of looked like she couldn't find the guy. But I digress.
Right.
Nice.
However, moving on, we head into a weekend where the MMA gods clearly owe us a favor. Clearly. Us fight fans, if we're hardcores, it doesn't matter if it's Luigi Pimentel versus Jonathan Martinez or if it was Whitaker or Gastelum. A lot of us are going to be there from fight 1 to fight 12. And those types of people are going to get paid handsomely between the 15th and 17th of this week. And I'm talking back-to-back nights in Bellator. The UFC's debut on ESPN on Sunday. An Invicta card with a title fight and semifinals to see who the number 1 contender is leading up to it. ACA. Cage Fury Fighting Championships. Sean Brady. Yeah, there's so many fights to watch this weekend. But we know the 2 that are on the marquee. Cain Velasquez returns after there's so many different things that have been wrong with him and so many different injuries. I don't even want to try to guess what it is specifically. But he steps in and says, yeah, I'll take Francis Ngannou. And then you have MVP and Michael Page the night before in Connecticut. We will start with Jason. Which one intrigues you more?
I mean, they're both fascinating. Of course, on a technical level, MVP and Daly is a much more interesting fight, but I'm more interested in Velasquez and Ngannou just on a long-term thing, just because if Cain Velasquez, a legendary fighter, maybe the greatest heavyweight of all time, can have gotten his health issues in check after a couple of years off, come back at 37 and be a worthwhile new addition to that division, especially with Cormier on his way out, and a guy that was 39 and he did well. If Cain Velasquez can come back and be great, man, that's fascinating. Or if Ngannou can show that he's gotten over his losses, have 2 back-to-back big wins, that's fascinating. For me, long-term, MVP is fascinating. He's an exciting fighter, but his true test is going to come in a great grappler. That's not Paul Daly. If he beats Paul Daly, that would be amazing, impressive, but he needs to be tested by grappler. We all know that. And if Paul Daly wins, he's gonna what? Fight Rory McDonald again in a fight? He's not gonna fight Rory McDonald. He's gonna fight the other side. But it's just on a long-term value. I'm not as interested to see what's gonna happen after this. I'm more interested to see if Cain Velasquez or Ngannou can fix their issues, their varied issues, either health or losing, and now Ngannou winning. So I'm more interested now. I always like the heavyweights.
DB, you're on mute, man.
I was on mute the entire time.
I thought it was my computer at first. I was like, I can't hear anybody now.
Brandon, go ahead, my man.
All right. Yeah, I'm just not excited to watch Cain Velasquez fight anymore. I know that sounds crazy, but listen, hear me out. Even if he wins and he looks great, the trajectory that Jason laid out sounds nice. It would be a great story, but I don't trust him to be able to do it anymore. I'm afraid he does this He's injured those in the fight or the week later, even if he does get this big one. People like him and Cruz, it's just hard for me to get super excited about their fights anymore. I know they're great. I know they're two of the best ever. But you only see them fight every 2 or 3 years. It's MVP's more interesting to me now because this welterweight tournament's more interesting to me right now. This is a marquee tournament. This is UFC caliber. I hate to compare the two, but it really is like a high-level welterweight tournament. These are the best guys in the world on par with the guys in UFC. You know what I'm saying? So seeing him take this little step up in competition and see how he's going to fare throughout the rest of the tournament, or maybe get a little glimpse into that at least, that's just more interesting to me right now.
I think Douglas Lima waiting on the winner is also incredibly intriguing as well.
Exactly, yeah.
We will go with Max next.
There's one right answer to this question. I mean, Paul Daly is 3-3 in his last 6, and Michael Venom Page coming off 2 performances against strikers that were heavily criticized for not having enough action. And quite frankly, the winner's probably getting taken out by Douglas Lima. A bunch of bad blood and smack talking is not enough to sell a fight bigger than the UFC Phoenix headliner. I mean, we're talking the reigning, defending, undisputed former heavyweight champion headlining this card, a guy coming back from 3 years away. The king of the what if he fights this person, what if he fights this person, what if he's the number 1 contender while Daniel Cormier is the champion. This is absolutely a fight here with major title implications, and he's getting probably one of the toughest fights in the division against someone who has more power than probably anyone he's fought before, with the exception of JDS. So do we have a new heavyweight title contender emerging, or is Cain Velasquez going to get put out like he did in the UFC's debut on Fox in 2011? We got a lot of questions to be answered, and UFC Phoenix headliner is far more intriguing than Michael Venom Page, Paul Daly.
I think you're on mute again, but are you calling me?
I would say that I'm not liking this mute button. You called it though, man. You knew exactly what I was doing. Go ahead, man.
Fantastic. I think there are 2 things that distinguish one of these matchups from the other. Relevance and significance in terms of world title shots. Obviously, the Velasquez and Ngannou is much more significant to that because, as one of my fellow guests here mentioned, that very likely the winner of Daly and MVP could lose their very next fight, especially if it is to Douglas Lima, who I'm a personal fan of. So title fight relevance, to Velasquez and Ngannou. Higher profile, more people know them because of the organization. Velasquez and Ngannou. My personal choice is the opposite. MVP and Daly, I'm really excited about. With Velasquez and Ngannou, I'm really excited to see if Cain can come back and return to form or even close to form. And if Ngannou hasn't really improved his takedown defense, which he probably hasn't, then Velasquez wins that. If it works out the opposite way, Ngannou can win. But to me, a battle of bad blood, for some reason, 2 Brits in a fight in freaking Uncasville, Connecticut, makes you wonder. I kind of think that they were thinking that the stands would be torn down like in a soccer game if they had it in England. But I think that if you look at Daly, the only guys that have beaten him without grappling have been Douglas Lima and a prime Nick Diaz. So the question is, can MVP be the 3rd one to do it? This is by far the most dangerous and toughest match that MVP has had. If you like to see grappling and jiu-jitsu, you're not going to like that fight. If you like to see some great striking, which a lot of people do, including me, then I think MVP and Daly is going to be really exciting, and I'm more looking forward to that matchup.
So what would you say to me if I have Paul Daly by inverted triangle choke?
I would give you high odds on that and cover any action you wanted to put on, right? You never know, though, right?
The way he was shouting boo in John Fitch's ears, dangerous.
Yeah. That's a submission technique in its own right.
Man, we've had a very, very tight race. I've dropped the ball on saying the scores. It really hasn't mattered, to be honest with you, because we've been tied across the board after 2 of the 3 questions. Everybody has 25. Colin has 24 going into the final one. Good push in through right here. Could see us through. And there is a very, very important topic that we must discuss. Nick Diaz just wants to party. A few days after Anderson Silva didn't necessarily call his shot, I think there are a few fights Silva wouldn't mind taking in Curitiba, Nick Diaz being one of them. Diaz, on some random Snapchat story, might have been his, might have been random person, said, and I quote, "I don't want to hurt nobody. I just want to party." And I've even read in a couple articles today that there are people that live in Vegas that can confirm that he's not lying. And he loves it. So with Nick Diaz saying these things, and obviously the Masvidal fight seemingly on the table for March, could you imagine with how stacked UFC 235 is now, if that fight was on there too? Oh my Lord. Are we ever going to see Nick Diaz fight again, Max Friedman?
The Snapchat story doesn't mean a thing because the true result was determined a long time ago. The Diaz brothers do whatever they want, and it's clear they don't want to or don't even feel compelled to fight. I mean, both Diaz brothers have been offered everyone on the roster, and they continue to turn fights down. Nick Diaz has not fought in 4 years, and prior to that, it was a 2-year gap. So some news headliner about him fighting Masvidal got everyone excited, and guess what? Nothing happened. Diaz is not going to fight. He will not fight in the UFC again. Not even sure he can pass a drug test. And quite frankly, I'm not sure Nate fights even if he's fighting, unless he's fighting Conor or GSP. I mean, Nick Diaz is not motivated by title aspirations or climbing the ranks in the division. It just seems, even though we're in an era of money fights, it's just not going to happen. Time just keeps ticking by, and he's 35. He's not getting younger. We're not going to see him in the UFC again.
Colin.
You know, this is a really interesting thing to me. One thing, I don't know if you guys know, because this goes way back, but Mike Tyson, toward the end of his career, made a statement saying something like, "I don't have the heart for this anymore." So those words turned out to be prophetic. When someone says, "I don't want to hurt anyone anymore," or "I don't have the heart for this anymore," when their job is combat sports, it usually tells a lot about where their head is and you know, and what they might do. Now, that withstanding, I do believe finances plays a big part. I don't think either Nate or Nick have $50 million in their bank account, and they might not even have a couple million left. So I think finances will dictate it. I think we will see Nick Diaz again if the money is right. I don't think he'll be really passionate or really be thinking of a world title shot, but I do think finances, being considered, that he will fight again. But it's going to have to be a big money fight. And I think it's going to be something where he'll be an underdog, but he'll come in extremely ready. He'll probably bet a lot of money on himself through other sources and plan to make one final payday. But I do think we'll see him again. And I think at 35, he hasn't taken a tremendous amount of damage, and it's not really that old. And I think that we will see Nick Diaz again under the right circumstances. And it's going to be somewhere within the next year to year and a half.
Just get the guy a plane ticket to Amsterdam and a gift card.
Yeah, nice.
Brandon.
I think we'll see Nick Diaz fighting.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Does that mean he eliminated himself?
I think he may have. I may have gotten. I may have just gotten off with by the skin of my teeth.
A couple of weeks ago with Mr. Michael Fidel, except Mr. Michael Fidel's face when it was frozen was an absolute riot. This is
Nice.
this is not good.
Let's see if we can get him back.
Right. Mr. Brandon.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea what happened.
I thought you eliminated yourself.
What's your last life, and you came back to life? You can go ahead. You can go ahead and start over everything you said. I did.
Okay. Well, I don't remember what I said before. So no. I think Nick Diaz has priced himself out at this point. And there's a lot of people who still want to see him fight, but a lot of newer fans to the sport don't remember this guy anymore. I think he's asking for more than he's worth. He's not even the most famous person in his own family, if you know what I'm saying. I think a lot of pay-per-views he would sell would be more casual fans buying because they think he's his brother. I just don't think he has the same star power he has, and I think he's asking for too much. I think eventually the UFC just says, you know what, we're not going to deal with you anymore. They grant him his release, and I think we see him in either Ryzen or he's fought in Japan before. He's got a little fall in there. ONE FC or somewhere. And not anytime soon, but over the next couple of years, I think this story kind of slowly plays out this way.
Nate Diaz rocking with a soccer kick. My life would be complete.
I love Diaz and Ryzen. I just want to throw that out there.
Me too. 100%. Jace, go ahead.
First I want to throw out that Nick Diaz was saying the lyrics from a YG song. I just want to party. So I mean, he is literally partying and singing to the party. But I mean, if we're talking about if he's coming back, personally, I hope he's gone. I hope he leaves. I'm so tired of Nick and Nate Diaz stories as part of the MMA media. I wish we would just stop covering them. I'm tired of hearing, oh, I want to fight this guy. I could whip that guy's butt. I could beat these guys. You're not coming back. Who cares anymore? Nate is iffy. I mean, do I think he would come back? I think Brandon just nailed it, and Max even said it. Max said he wouldn't fight in the UFC. I think that's what's gonna happen. He's not gonna fight in the UFC. Maybe 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we'll get some weird story of Nick Diaz disappearing, come out of retirement at 40 years old, fighting for Ryzen or Bellator or something like that. Is he coming back? No. I think he's got bigger issues. He's got problems in his life he's got to go handle, he's got to deal with, and Nate's probably going down with him. So no, I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. But he's gonna party though.
I hear they're working on Nick Diaz versus Melvin Gillard for Ryzen 65.
I'm so into that. See, it's a joke, but I'm so into that.
Once that lands, the other guy goes down.
No drug testing, just I love it. Let's do it.
So it's my least favorite part because no one likes goodbyes. And once again, for the 5th week in a row, I can solidly say that we've been batting 1,000 with guys that we've had on here. Everybody has been fantastic. And Colin, you had your best round in that round. Unfortunately, so did 2 of the other 3, and that leaves you the big man out. You had your best response in that round, but the other guys stepped up to the plate too, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's nice to meet you. I had never known you until I talked to you today, and hopefully maybe have you on again soon, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It was great to hang out with you guys, and I couldn't have lost to a better and more informed and well-spoken group. So props to all of you. It was a great time.
You guys are studs, man. There's no shame. Again, should have said this before we started the call. Awkward. Even though I am in charge of eliminating people, I can't do it myself, thanks to the new Skype update.
So I've got to cut myself off. In other words, right?
Yeah.
All right. It would be funny if I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
I know. Hold it hostage. Hold control.
No problem. All right, here we go. You guys have a great one. It's a pleasure. Rock on.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
No problem.
Cool dude. Really nice guy. I'd never met him till today. Really cool guy. We are down to 3. I'm gonna tear Skype a new one. So, rapid fire. We do not reset points in this round, and I will say we are almost practically tied. The scores are super close every single week. Brandon is actually the lead dog right now, 34. Max and Jason have 33. So we move on, and hey, man, I don't know, but if you did not get a chance to catch Bellator's first ever European Fight Series card this weekend, I would like to apologize to you for I don't know what you were doing, but you shouldn't have been doing it. 10 fights finished out of 12, 9 of them in the first round, 4 guys KO'd cold. Patricio Pitbull, a guy in the main event against Ryan Scope, who was the former Bama lightweight champ. Ryan Scope took Patricio Pitbull to a split decision, and a lot of people thought he won the fight. It was a very compelling card. I think it's safe to say that this card was a huge success. However, Bellator may or may not be thrilled that Aaron Chalmers did not get the victory. And to be honest with you, that fight was not very fun to watch. But Corey Browning was the one that got the victory by heel hook, 20 seconds into round 3. Corey Browning now. Baby Slice, a few months ago. Corey Browning now. Aaron Chalmers. Brandon, we'll start with you. Who has to tell Scott Coker, hey, don't give that guy to the people that have the notable faces around the Bellator roster? What are they going to do with Corey Browning going forward?
Right, it's kind of a weird thing because I feel like we don't really know much about Corey Browning still. At least I don't from those first 2 fights. I mean, he was 3-2 going into the Baby Slice fight, so he wasn't expected to really be a huge opposition, I don't think, in Scott Coker's eyes. It was weird he gave him to Chalmers after that upset. I do agree with you there.
If I could, though, I left out the last part of the question. Do you think it's also? It was my fault. Do you think it's more so Browning, or do you think that maybe there's a lack of development in Baby Slicer and Aaron Chalmers' part?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
most important.
Right. So his fight against Baby Slice, again, he was 3-2. Baby Slice was 2-1, I think, at the time, 3-1 to 2-1. So it made sense. Looking at records, that makes sense. Was it a developmental? Was it developmentally a bad call? No, because it's a fight that he should have been able to at least be competitive in. The Chalmers fight, Chalmers did almost knock him out. And, he did a great job in there against him. But, sorry, I lost my train of thought completely.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't blame you. There's not a lot to talk about from that fight, to be honest with you.
Okay. So let me get to the end here. So what do you do with Corey Browning? I don't know. Maybe somebody said on Twitter that you put him against Danis and you kind of promote him as your prospect killer. Can you take another star out? That's kind of an interesting one for Danis and him, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah. Again, I said I just don't know enough about the guy. I don't know how to talk about him really.
Yeah, I turned up the difficulty on this one. I turned up the difficulty for sure, Max.
The only thing I want to know about Corey Browning is whether or not he's related to Junie Browning. I mean, Tennessee and Kentucky right next to each other. But before those Bellator fights, Browning had been submitted in back-to-back fights. I mean, I'm no technical striking expert, but he seemed to be outmatched on the feet against Chalmers. He was almost finished. He still has a long way to go. I don't think there's too much to be getting excited about just yet. By no means has he really taken over that hype train of Slice and Chalmers. And on the flip side, I don't think it's really developmental either. I mean, styles make fights, and while Chalmers or Baby Slice might not have had what it took to beat Browning on that night, there's no reason to think it's over. Do I think they're the top Bellator up-and-comers? Absolutely not. There's a lot more talented guys in those divisions. Bellator gets criticized for babying their top prospects like A.J. McKee or MVP Joey Davis, Speedy Claxton, but nonetheless, I'm glad to see they're getting competitive fights, and these guys aren't getting washouts, guys that they can put away within seconds.
Or how about Logan Storley? He's got a competitive fight this weekend. Mr. Jason.
I mean, it's all a matter of perspective. I mean, this is just the nature of fighters at this level. I mean, I hope Sure Dog is right with the records. Browning's 4-1, Slice is now 3-2, Chalmers is 4-1 now. I mean, these are young fighters. This is what happens. This is why they have to go through it, fight each other, and see who is worthwhile. I mean, it's all perspective. You can look at it as glass half empty. Oh man, these are two of our best guys. These guys we're gonna put money on. Browning effed it up. We don't know what to do now, and then you're kind of at a loss. Or you, as a booker, which they probably are going to do, look at his glass half full. Man, this Browning guy, man, he, to use a wrestling term, he might have got the rub from Baby Slice and Chalmers. These are the guys who had names, more so they were known for fighters. Maybe it builds a name for Browning. MMA is a weird sport that sometimes guys just click late. Maybe this helps him click. I think Max made a great point. He probably may not click, but that's what they're going to hope for. Because when Zach Freedman beat Pico, they put him right in there with the notable fighter. See if he's legit. So maybe Browning gets his chance. It might be good for Browning. Maybe he becomes like a Diego Sanchez wild dog who puts on fun fights and he's interesting and he's always a fun watch. So it's all perspective. I'm sure they're going to look at a glass half full and try to do something with Browning. Maybe make a star. And these other guys still got names, so they're not going anywhere.
So before I get into the scores, I know Baby Slice trains with killers out of the shop.
Yep.
Anthony McKee or Antonio McKee. That
I mean, just assassins in the entire room. Aaron Chalmers, not familiar. Where he do any of you guys know? I'm asking because I don't know.
I saw him working with Dean Amasinger backstage, but that was about it.
Yeah, they interviewed his mom on that card. She didn't have much to say. I thought that was a bad idea. Moving forward, though, I will say of the 5 episodes that we've had this week, it's been like a NASCAR race in Daytona. I never watched NASCAR, but I know that they pass each other. It's been passes and pulls and switches and jives. And in the final tonight will be Max Freedman and Jason Burgos. Brandon, you were in first place. Almost.
On that last question, though, my brain just froze on me. I completely understand.
I messaged Keith in the middle of it, too. That's why I said Brandon's killing it right now.
Yeah.
However, man, read your first article, Fansided today. It was awesome, dude. Keep up the good work. I know you and I are going to do awesome stuff there, along with As long as Ryan doesn't cause too much of a stir with Amy, I think we'll be all right.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. That was a lot of fun.
Always a pleasure, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right. Later.
Later.
Now there were two. Oh boy, here we go.
Interactive scoreboards where you could see the progress of it.
Yeah.
This episode has been like jockeying for position, but regardless, here we are. So just so you know, the only thing that changes going into this one is the scores reset. So Max had 42, Jason had 41. Those all fall back down to 0, and I'm gonna serve you guys up with a fastball right here. We do stay in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or go back to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And one thing that a lot of people took note in is whenever John Anik said, we would like to announce the location and event, and you're just like, oh, okay, all right, UFC 236 gets that day. UFC 238, and you're just like, huh? UFC 238 now has a date at least. It's the same exact month of the same exact city and venue they were last year, United Center. They're headed to June. They're headed there in June, just like last year. UFC 237 also seems to have its grip on where they're going. Obviously, the missing party here. We do not know where UFC 236 is going to be, unless you guys know something I don't. Do No,
not at all.
This seems to be the best kept secret MMA is what I'm saying. And my question is, the only thing I have seen is one person tweeted, I have heard whispers that they don't know where they are going for sure, but they do know that they're going to go somewhere that they have not been in a long, long time. My question is more so of an opinion question, Max. I'll start with you. When you hear the words, haven't been there in a long, long time, and you consider it's their April pay-per-view. They went to Brooklyn last year for it. What's the first idea that pops in your head? Told you it's a tough one.
We getting a second to think about this one, or is we going right in?
You guys can absolutely have a second, but whenever you let me know when you're ready, and I'll start the timer. Okay. Someone said Dauphin, Alabama too. I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Say bare knuckle fighting.
Like, that's creative, but I don't think so. There were rumors that it was going to Genk too. That wouldn't have made much sense. The person that tweeted that too is a very credible and well-respected guy. Jason, you got anything?
I mean, if I'm going to start, I'll go.
All rounds are like this.
Yeah, I mean, my first gut reaction would be Boston, because Boston is a major city. We all know that Dana has a hard-on for Boston. It's, Patriots fans, where he comes from, and it's a major city. They don't seem to go there as much as you would think. They go to New York a lot more, which is crazy considering it was illegal for so long, but my guess would be Boston. Major city. They've done previous events that were pretty big there. They haven't done it in a while. I wouldn't say Florida. They don't seem to go to Florida, which is nuts because there's major camps and gyms down there. There's major cities down there. They don't go to California. It seems like they stay over on the coast. They don't fly over country too much. So my guess, Boston. Boston's got to be. It's the city of champions. They probably want to be there.
Tough question for sure, but I'm going to go Atlanta. The last time I can recall them being down in hot Atlanta was, I want to say 2013 in the fall, or maybe early 2014. A big major city. The only team you got to figure out in conjunction with is the Atlanta Hawks. Whether or not that, I guess by then it'll be the summertime. Won't have any conflicts with, the Atlanta Braves playing outside in SunTrust Park. Regardless, though, close to Miami, close to Florida, where some big teams or big gyms are. American Top Team, Hard Knocks 365, close to the coast. You got a lot of up-and-coming talent that you could be featured on that card. And who knows? Maybe we'll have an interim lightweight title fight headlining it between Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier. Who knows? But it's a tough decision. If somewhere that's not a super long time, that's the one thing that comes to mind. It's been almost 4 years now.
If I could take a page out of Pardon the Interruptions and when you do the errors and omissions, Tony Reali, that's his job, right? Isn't that me? I am Tony Reali.
Yes.
What year was Lawler Woodley, Max?
That was 2016. Was that in Atlanta? That was in Atlanta.
It was.
Yeah.
But they were in Atlanta in 2013, and they haven't been there in a while. I believe Miocic and Ngannou was at 220 last January, but before that, it was a while. McGregor Seaver might have been what was there before. Regardless, though. First of all, thanks to both of you guys. You guys both did awesome tonight. This episode was a lot of fun. I thought the questions were compelling. I definitely thought you had to use your brain for the last one, but I'm not going to do that. From worst to first, though, what a story. Max Freedman is the winner.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was a close one. Hey, Shane Burgos, his little brother over here, put up hell of a fight. Definitely check out his stuff.
You get that a lot, man? Like you're the sibling of Shane Burgos just because you cover the same sport that he fights in?
I only heard it for the first time recently from that guy, the Canadian guy, Bronstetter. I saw him at the Barclays. He brought that up. I was like, yeah. And it was funny. I think Shane Burgos is from New York, so yeah, it's more fitting.
And small world full of irony. The guy that I told you, it's not a secret, tweeted out that somewhere, not in a long, long time, Mr. Bronstetter. That was him. That's literally the only thing I've seen about it whatsoever. Clock's ticking, too. Clock is ticking on that card. They got to get something locked down. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show, man. It was awesome. I appreciate it. And I'm sure we will have both of you guys back. Max, you did secure the victory, though. So 30 seconds to talk about anything you're passionate about, anything got you fired up this week.
Yeah, something Davidson mentioned at the beginning of the card. So many regional top promotions this weekend. Pretty much every weekend. Keep an eye on some of these up-and-coming talents, man. You won't regret it if you tune in and watch their fights. A lot of talent outside the UFC could be picked up by any major promotion. There's guys out there that are 11-1, 10-0, Nate Andrews, what was he, 15, 16-1 now? Guys like that really should be in a big show. Those are some fun cards to watch. Just as a fight fan, check those out.
15-0, 15 finishes, and Dana will not call him. I don't get it. Wait, man. What I will say this too, as a part of my new venture into Fansided, I'll also be contributing at mymmanews.com as well occasionally. And tomorrow I will be debuting a top 5 fights outside of the UFC and Bellator, and that'll be a good one next week. Hey, we got LFA too. We got ACA. It's gonna be. The MMA gods, they need our prayers. You guys know where to find us. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's on anywhere that you could possibly consume a podcast. We'll be back next week. I do have a couple of members already locked down for next week. It's going to be a good one. We're going to recap what will be a wild weekend and see what we can muster to talk about Santos and Blachowicz and move on from there. For these guys and myself, we will see you again in the future. Until then, next time, have a good one.